The Walking Dead is back. Yay. Welcome to another Death Curse Society Slash report, this time on the debut episode of The Walking Dead. I'm Redcranke, and I'll be honest, before I start this, I haven't been too excited about The Walking Dead the last few years. The all-out war with Negan was one of the last seasons I enjoyed, and even that seemed to drag on forever, with a little bit of good action here and there. But Jeffrey Dean Morgan is such a good actor. You could watch him just breathe on screen. That's entertaining. My excitement level for the 10th season of The Walking Dead is not very high, although Alpha and the Whisperers do seem like fearful adversaries for our band of heroes. A few things to note before we start. We will see Michonne leave the show sometime during Season 10. This has been confirmed, although we have no way of knowing how she will leave yet. Will she die? Will she be swept away to join Rick wherever he is and be part of the new movies coming next year? Will she just separate herself from the groups and go her own way? We'll have to see. But we know her storyline is ending soon. We also know this was the lowest rated premiere of The Walking Dead ever, so viewers are dropping like flies on a rotting corpse. Yeah. We also know Maggie will be returning as a series regular in the already green-lit Season 11. But will she make a few appearances this season? We'll have to see. Finally, we know there was another time jump between the end of Season 9 and the beginning of Season 10, but apparently only a few months has passed when we begin. So, here we go. We start Episode 1, Lines We Cross in Space. Space?
Space, the final frontier.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, this is just dumb. Yes, a Russian satellite is seen floating above Earth that soon loses altitude and drifts into the atmosphere. Okay, whatever. They have to explain this later. And it better really propel the storyline forward and not just be some random bullshit. Then, we get something new. A title card that reads Training Day. Haven't had title cards in The Walking Dead before, so that's a creative choice made by the writers this time around. Let's see how this works out. Then we see a zombie climbing out of the ocean, overgrown with seaweed, tree limbs, and other nastiness. Judith kills him, then joins the rest of the group who are participating in some sort of training exercise led by King Ezekiel. The team is looking like a true army with synchronized movements and choreographed attacks, which could come in handy in the future rather than just flying into battle with a little abandon. Also, if you look closely, there's a Jaws Easter egg in this scene with the yellow barrel that's attached to the boat the army is approaching. Nice little touch. The next scene is meant to explain that life is back to normal for the group somewhat, but that ends when the kids who have been scouring the beach for seashells discover a Whisperer's walker mask among their findings. Are they closing in? Do the Whisperers know where our survivors are? Another title card reads Skin after the opening credits. Michonne and the group are discussing the possibilities of the Whisperers' closeness and telling other communities over the radio. Michonne leads a group to explore the area, searching for signs of intruders. Aaron asks Michonne if they are the good guys, which is a major discussion among fans of the show. A nice bit of awareness by the writers to include the idea in the actual storyline, but let's see if they expand on that in future episodes. At one moment, Michonne and Aaron find themselves at a bridge which is part of the Whisperer's designated border. The two have a reflective moment about those they've lost and how best to handle the situation they are in with the Whisperers. Before returning to Oceanside, they discover a campsite and a few skeletal remains and bodies, along with a skin. Michonne later answers Aaron that, quote, "We have to choose to be the good guys, even when it's hard." Michonne returns to Oceanside, finding Judith telling her little brother RJ a story about the brave man, Rick. After another touching moment, an explosion in the sky gets everyone's attention, and someone comes to Michonne telling her Eugene is on the radio and he needs to speak to her now. Title card, Bird Wisdom. We see the same scene that started with Aaron and Michonne on the radio play out with Father Gabriel. Then we get a musical montage of Eugene, Rosita, and the new baby. Eugene is running wellness checks and charting a lot of information while Rosita works out and punches a heavy bag. Lydia, who is learning to read and use a staff, seems to be the outcast of the group. And why not? Her mother's a psycho. Mental health traits run in the family, right? Negan, who is gardening with an armed guard nearby, notices Lydia's issue and strikes up a conversation with her. He warns her to watch her back as only Negan can. Sadiq has flashbacks to the attack that killed many of their group. Gabriel visits Negan in his cell, and Negan shows that he knows more about the ongoing threat outside their walls than he should, and others might be getting the same idea. Negan tells Gabriel that lying to make people feel safe isn't necessarily a bad thing. As Gabriel secures the gates for the night, the explosion in the sky erupts, sending Eugene running to the radio, exclaiming, "Something of grave importance is about to happen." The title card Sea Dogs takes us back to Oceanside. Kelly appears to be losing his hearing. Daryl and Connie are becoming closer, thanks to Dog. Carol arrives on the boat that has been out fishing for a while. She and Daryl escape for a bit to catch up, riding his bike and taking out walkers. Their interaction is probably the highlight of this episode, which leads into another title card reading New Mexico. After shooting a deer that crosses into the Whisperer's territory, Daryl forces Carol to not retrieve the deer because of the borders they have to honor. Carol tries to convince Daryl to go fishing with her next time, but he refuses. They contemplate getting on his bike and going west to New Mexico. Their quaint, moving moment is then shattered by, you guessed it, an explosion in the sky. Finally, we come to what the entire episode has been leading to. What the fuck was the explosion? After the title card, Lines We Cross, there's a large fire in the woods caused by the crashed satellite. The fire threatens not only the Oceanside, but the Whisperers as well. The group has to cross the border to fight the fire and contain it before it spreads out of control. Everyone pitches in, doing what they can, and it's a very well done sequence. Filming with fire is difficult due to its unpredictability, but the shots and scenes are excellent. Night turns to day, showing the length of time spent trying to contain the new threat. Oh, and don't forget walkers attack periodically, hampering their efforts. There is always this underlying fear as well among the survivors when they are being approached by a group of walkers. Are they truly walkers, or are they whisperers? Many times throughout the episode, you hear someone warn the group to watch their hands. It works well and subtly reminds the viewer of the unseen threat of the whisperers. The final title card, Embers, appears before a large walker battle and the containment of the fire. Eugene is desperate to scavenge the downed satellite for any usable technology that could help their communities. After a brief disagreement, Michonne allows him to do it with a little help from others, but they have to hurry to get out of the Whisperer territory unnoticed. Carol and Daryl disappear and find the canyon that held the Whisperer's horde of walkers, but it's empty now. Daryl asks Carol to stay and walks away. This is when Carol spots Alpha below, and they lock eyes maliciously for a moment as the episode ends. As with most season premieres of The Walking Dead, this one spends a lot of time on character development, explaining minor events that happened during the break, and not enough time on action. Overall, it's not a bad episode, but the jumpiness and repeating of the scenarios in different locations was annoying, as were the title cards. I hope that was just a trick they were using to identify the time jumps in this episode and not something they keep up for the entire season. The fire in the woods was something new and dangerous for the group to face, so that was an especially fun part of the show, but the cause of the fire and the opening shot of a satellite seemed a bit too out of left field for a show that tries to steep itself into reality. Well, as much as into reality as you can when dealing with zombies. Do satellites fall from the sky? Sure, occasionally. But that just seemed super random, even for The Walking Dead. Now, if they get some sort of useful technology out of the situation, I'll take back what I said, as long as it is believable. Alpha, even though she wasn't in this episode much, still is a prominent force to be reckoned with, and hopefully Carol will get her chance soon to tangle with that psycho bitch and end it once and for all. Not a terrible start to the season, but I think it could have been better. The writers seem to be looking for too much strangeness in a world that is already strange, and starting this episode in space was very off-putting. For a moment it didn't feel like I was watching The Walking Dead, and maybe that's what they were going for. The repetitive sequences that overlapped each storyline were also a bit irritating, but I can understand why they did it for this episode. A satellite crashing and starting a nearby fire would be shocking, and seeing that play out among each group separately could have paid off more, in my opinion. As I've said before, and even at the beginning of this Slash report, I've been slowly losing interest in The Walking Dead over the last few years, so I'm hoping this season really picks up the pace soon. I think the Whisperers could be as much of a threat as Negan and the Saviors were when that storyline was introduced, but so far they're just a mystery stashed deep in the woods. It's time to unleash the Alpha and the Negan. Let me know what your thoughts were in the comments below, and catch up with all the latest horror news with our new full episode on YouTube. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe, DCS out, and we'll see you soon. Woo!